The moment my little sister opened the envelope, the whole room exploded with cheers. She screamed, my parents cried, relatives clapped, and everyone rushed to hug her. Inside was the deed to a brand new house, a real house, freshly built, fully furnished, sitting in one of the nicest neighborhoods in town. I stood there smiling, because that's what everyone expected me to do. "She deserves it," my aunt whispered proudly. "Your parents have always dreamed of giving her this." I nodded, even though something deep inside me felt strangely heavy. Not because my sister got the house, I truly loved her, but because I knew my turn was coming. My graduation had happened only 1 year earlier. I had graduated with honors, worked 2 part-time jobs, and even helped pay some of my own tuition. Back then, my parents told me they couldn't afford anything special. "We're proud of you, sweetheart," Mom had said. "A fancy gift isn't what matters." I believed them. I hugged them and told them I understood. So standing there watching balloons float across the ceiling while everyone admired my sister's new house keys, I kept reminding myself that life wasn't always equal. Then Dad smiled at me. "Oh, honey," he said, "we almost forgot." He reached behind the table and handed me a small gift bag. Everyone turned to look. My cousins laughed. "Looks like someone else gets a surprise." For one tiny second, I actually felt hopeful. Maybe they had planned something meaningful after all. Maybe this was their way of making up for last year. Maybe they wanted me to know they hadn't forgotten me. I slowly pulled out the box. It was wrapped in bright blue paper with a silver ribbon. Inside was a folded brochure. I stared at it. At first, I didn't even understand what I was looking at. Then I read the words printed across the front. 1-year premium gym membership. The room went completely silent. Mom smiled awkwardly. "We thought you'd appreciate it." Dad laughed. "You've been saying you wanted to get healthier." Before I could answer, my uncle chuckled. "Now that's motivation," someone else whispered. "She could definitely use it." The laughter spread across the room. Not loud, not cruel, just enough to make my face burn. I wasn't overweight. I wasn't unhealthy. But after years of balancing school, work, and caring for my grandmother, I had gained a little weight. Apparently, enough to become the family joke. I forced a smile. "Thank you." Those 2 words barely escaped my mouth. But what nobody noticed was that something inside me quietly broke that afternoon. Because it wasn't really about the gym membership. It was about realizing that while they celebrated my sister's future, they had turned mine into entertainment. And what I didn't know that day was that this embarrassing gift would become the reason my entire life changed forever. I drove home that night with the gym brochure sitting on the passenger seat. Every traffic light reminded me of the laughter. Every mile replayed the same moment. She could definitely use it. The words echoed louder than I wanted to admit. For days, I avoided everyone. I ignored family group chats, skipped Sunday dinner. Even my sister texted me, "Are you okay?" I wanted to tell her the truth. None of this was her fault. She hadn't asked for the house. She hadn't laughed. She even looked uncomfortable when everyone started making jokes. So instead, I replied, "I'm just busy." The truth was, I had spent years trying to earn my parents' approval. Good grades, extra jobs, helping with bills, taking grandma to doctor's appointments. Whenever my parents needed someone, they called me. Whenever they wanted to celebrate someone, they celebrated my sister. Little by little, I began remembering things I'd ignored for years. Her expensive vacations, my secondhand clothes, her new car, my bus pass. Every excuse had sounded reasonable at the time. "We'll make it up to you. You're more understanding. You're stronger." I finally realized those weren't compliments. They were permissions. Permissions to keep giving me less. Instead of crying, I made a decision. I actually used the gym membership. Not because they wanted me to change, because I wanted to feel strong again. Every morning became my reset. Every workout reminded me that I still had control over my own life. But I didn't stop there. I applied for promotions at work, took professional certification classes at night, started saving every extra dollar. I stopped saying yes to every family request. When Dad called asking me to drive Grandma across town, I politely replied, "I'm sorry, I have work." When Mom wanted help organizing another family event, I'm unavailable. For the first time in my life, my time belonged to me. Months passed. Then one afternoon, my manager called me into her office. "We're opening a regional position. It comes with a major salary increase, and we'd like you to lead the new office." The office happened to be in another city, 3 hours away. A fresh beginning. I accepted immediately. I bought a small townhouse using my own savings and the company's relocation package. It wasn't as large as my sister's gift, but every brick belonged to me. Every payment came from my own hard work. For the first time, I looked around my home and felt proud instead of overlooked. Then, almost a year later, Mom called. Her voice sounded different. Worried. Can you come home? We really need to talk. I almost said no, until she whispered something that made my heart stop. It's about the house. When I arrived, the atmosphere felt nothing like the graduation party. No balloons, no laughter, just silence. My parents looked exhausted. My sister was crying quietly. That's when they explained everything. Dad had stretched their finances far beyond what anyone knew. The beautiful graduation house wasn't truly affordable. He had borrowed heavily, expecting future investments to cover the payments. Those investments failed. Now the bank was demanding repayment. The house everyone celebrated was becoming the very thing pulling my parents into financial disaster. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Finally, Mom looked at me. We thought maybe, she hesitated, since you're doing well now. I understood exactly what she was asking. They wanted me to rescue them. The daughter who received the gym membership, the daughter who was told there wasn't enough money, the daughter whose feelings became the evening's joke. Old me would have emptied my savings without hesitation. But that version of me no longer existed. I looked at my sister. She quietly shook her head. No, she said softly. You don't owe us this. Then she surprised everyone. She stood up and placed the house keys on the table. I never wanted a gift that hurt my sister. If selling this house helps fix everything, then sell it. For the first time, I realized she had been carrying guilt all along. She hadn't been the problem. Favoritism had. I reached across the table and held her hand. I'm not paying off the debt, I said calmly, but I'll help you make a plan. I connected my parents with a financial advisor, helped them organize a realistic budget, supported them emotionally, but not financially. They had to face the consequences of their own choices. Months later, the house was sold. They downsized into a modest home. Life became simpler, and strangely, healthier. One evening, my father visited my townhouse. He looked around quietly before saying, I thought giving expensive gifts showed love. I never realized how deeply we hurt you. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was honest. For the first time, I believed he finally saw me. Today, my sister and I are closer than ever. We celebrate each other's achievements instead of competing for approval. As for that gym membership, I actually kept the card. Not because of the workouts, but because it reminds me of the day I stopped chasing love that had to be earned. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't making people suffer. It's building a life so peaceful, so confident, and so independent, that their unfair treatment no longer defines your future. Because the greatest gift I ever received wasn't hidden inside that little blue box.